The Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series received decent reviews last year. Though it might have started off pretty okay, by the time Darth Vader became a mainstay in the series, the internet went crazy. Disregarding the muddled plot and some of the side characters, overall Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 1 was really strong. People loved seeing Obi-Wan and Darth Vader finally get to fight on screen. Well, a proper fight, that is. We also look to see Anakin Skywalker on screen with his master once again, as Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor got to reunite. However, the ending of the series kind of proposed the second season. But they should only happen with one huge change. Storytelling is a huge part of Star Wars, and going forward, they need to make some changes if Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2 is ever gonna happen. The Obi-Wan series chronicled the life of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine 10 years after the events of Order 66. The harrowing event led him to stay on Tatooine, as he kept a distant eye on a young Luke Skywalker. However, Obi-Wan Kenobi was then drawn off the planet to find Luke's sister Leia after she was kidnapped from Alderaan. Here's where the series really started, as the wider connections to the Star Wars universe didn't stop there. Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi had their first reunion and showdown since their battle on Mustafar in Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. This also led to some discussion as to whether this contradicted the first Star Wars film, which we believe it did, as the Star Wars franchise is expanding on Disney Plus even further than before. So should its timeline. Yet, Star Wars now seems to be a franchise stuck in the past, confining itself to the legacy of the original Skywalker saga, as opposed to branching out and discovering new stories. The Mandalorian is probably one of the only series that keeps doing this, but even then it's tied down to characters such as Luke Skywalker and of course Grogu. The series itself, though, doesn't really meddle in the past, aside from Luke Skywalker and the Jedi themselves. But this is the point. Going forward, Star Wars could branch out and make even more stories away from these original characters. Recent releases such as Undo and the upcoming Acolyte are going to focus on entirely new characters and eras in the Star Wars universe. This allows them to build new legacies without relying on everything that came before it. And all was, in fact, a huge success, which is awesome for Star Wars going forward, right? Well, it's only going to be a success if they carry on making stories like this. We need more stories that stray away from the original movies and start to delve deeper into Star Wars lore like the old books did. Disney has already announced various projects set in the early days of the Jedi and the Old Republic, which is awesome to see. Obi-Wan Kenobi, however, was left behind in this creative revolution, as it leaned much more into fan service and connections to the original and prequel trilogies rather than doing something new. We hope they avoid this in the second season, as Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2 could be groundbreaking for Disney Plus. Though it was awesome to see Obi-Wan Kenobi back on our screens, Season 1 was a very clear narrative bridge between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. Ultimately, though, this was to its detriment, as Obi-Wan Kenobi's strong storytelling was pulled down. The final and climactic battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader was genuinely emotional, but other moments in the series felt shoehorned in. This was a result of trying to create a new story about characters who were so intrinsic to the Skywalker saga, and those who had already had previous stories together. There was some smart misdirection, but they were all simply too complicated due to the LA connection that they had to contend with. It's easy to understand why Lucasfilm tried to play around with fan service when it came to making Obi-Wan Kenobi, as it provided an easy story to market. Obi-Wan is a character who deserves and can handle much more, as he's so integral to the Skywalker saga. The thing is, though, despite being so integral to the story, he is an older character, meaning that there are so many stories that delve into his past. We can get more into his backstory, experiences, and future as a man before he inevitably dies. We have seen things like this in the animated series Star Wars: The Clone Wars, but we could see much more in a hypothetical Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. If a second season of Obi-Wan Kenobi is ever going to be greenlit, it needs to commit to a standalone story. We do love the Star Wars lore and all of the connections it has, but come on, wouldn't you love to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi show on his own? Yeah, it could risk the connections he has to the widest Star Wars community, but come on, it would be absolutely awesome. The ending of Season 1 set this up perfectly, as Obi-Wan left Luke behind in the care of Owen and Beru and came face to face with his old master for the first time. A second season could showcase his quest to learn more ways of the Force like his master did before him, diving deeper into the lore of the Force. We could have Liam Neeson back as a mainstay, teaching urban Kenobi the ways of the Force even deeper than he ever saw before. We could see how Obi-Wan Kenobi learns to become a Force ghost and see his many adventures whilst he was on Tatooine. Originally, the fanbase believed that Obi-Wan never left Tatooine, and just watched over Luke for his entire adolescence. But now we know that's not true. Obi-Wan trusts Luke's aunt and uncle, so he can leave freely and do whatever he wants. After all, Obi-Wan Kenobi created a huge legacy for himself. So let's see some of that, damn it. A second season of the series could completely flip the script and showcase Obi-Wan's life during an entirely different era as well. There's no reason for this series to be completely restricted to Tatooine, as various novels, comic books, and of course animation have seen Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Padawan and a young adult. We could see more of his time before the Clone Wars, or as a young Padawan with Qui-Gon Jinn. Obi-Wan's first encounter with his beloved Duchess Satine is yet to be told, which is really surprising as it's a huge narrative gap in the character. There is so much we can do with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's just such a shame that they might be restricting him to just Tatooine and his elder years. Even Hayden Christensen is coming back for the upcoming Ahsoka series, though we don't know how that's exactly gonna play out. We will most likely see flashbacks of the Clone Wars, so Ewan McGregor could even pop up in that series as well. We just really hope they know what they're doing with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and if a second season does get greenlit, they try something different. Star Wars has already said they're now moving away from the original Skywalker saga in terms of movies, which is a great step in the right direction. However, all of the television series still seem to be held back. Some shows need to be there as they're telling stories to the audience at once, but something like Obi-Wan Kenobi could open the floodgates in the Star Wars universe. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. We hope you enjoyed today's video.